Frank tells Mars that Percy Jackson is a walking weakness. Sorry, just kidding. Baltimore, Maryland, what is good? Woo. It is an absolute delight to be here in your city, in this state where I have not performed a live show of any podcasting type before. So I'm glad to be here. And just to set the tone right off the top, as you can see on the sign there, no crowd surfing and no stage dives for me. Look, it's not me. I'm just trying to respect the good people here at Autobar who have hosted this wonderful event, which I didn't realize until 7 days ago we booked for Super Bowl Sunday, which is so funny. This is so funny. Okay, I need to do a quick poll of the audience. First off, who absolutely could not care less about football and is totally fine to be here? All right. Who? If the Ravens made it, who would not be here tonight? Okay. I'm so out on football that I didn't even know that the Ravens were good this year. And one of my buddies, Adam, who co-hosts with me, texted me oh, dude, you're so lucky the Ravens lost in the playoffs this year. And I was like, oh, they were in it? Ugh. Truly had no idea, so this is so funny. The only thing I do care about is, I don't know, when things happen in the Super Bowl, but at whatever point in time we need to make sure that Kendrick Lamar ended Drake's career. Only thing we need to check in on for the evening. But regardless, I'm so excited to be here at the nerdiest thing possible, the book podcast live show during the Super Bowl. It's perfect. The vibes are going to be off the charts. I'm so stoked. Now, the other reason that the vibes are off the charts is that this particular show lineup that we have, where, at least for this TNO portion, is just so timely perfect because this is Sunday night. New episode's coming out on Monday. If you're on the Patreon, I uploaded it in the green room. So, it's up right now. But it'll drop at midnight onto the podcast players. But the guest for that episode is the guest for tonight's live show. And that episode covers 4 Frank chapters that all get resolved during tonight's live show. It's so perfect. So let's bring that wonderful guest to our stage. You know her, you love her, you've heard her in terms of her voice and her editing prowess. It's our editor, Sherry Guo! Hello. Oh, sorry, yep, need a mess. Thank you. And not just Sherry Guo, but Baltimore's own Sherry Guo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello. Making my debut at the live show.
Yes.
Not as the Q&A moderator.
Correct. You're here.
And also, I'm from Baltimore with an asterisk because I grew up in the suburbs.
Which suburb?
Bel Air, then Timonium.
The people in this part are hyped. I'm very excited to do this show. It's going to be an absolute blast. Now, we've asked you all the guest questions at this point, right? I feel like you've answered.
Yeah, all
you did
of them.
You did the
Riptide one
thing.
we did on the episode that's coming out at midnight.
Yeah, so everyone after going to the show, go listen to the episode and it'll be like you're watching Memento, the Percy
I guess
Jackson
we can do a
podcast
bonus one. After editing that episode, I was thinking a lot about the cereal question, and my answer on the podcast was incorrect. I would explode into Trix, not Cocoa Puffs.
Ah, okay, from before, yeah, with the grain folk.
Yes.
All right, but now what we're going to be doing tonight is chapters 33 and 34 of The Son of Neptune. Both are called Frank. We'll obviously retitle them. We last left our heroes. They were riding literally beyond the speed of sound on Arion, the super duper fast horse. Frank opens this chapter as the narrator with, quote, Frank was relieved when the wheels fell off. So he is excited for this ride to end. Apparently, he's already puked twice on the ride, and the whole speed of sound travel thing feels like drinking a gallon of whole milk without having taken his lactose intolerance medicine. Now, we had talked in the last episode about how you are more of a lactose avoider. Does it make you feel bad if you drink it, or is this just like lactose is not a part of your life?
I wouldn't consider myself lactose intolerant, even though you may consider that based on what I'm about to describe. But I also work at a coffee shop, and during one of my first shifts, my boss gave me a reject dirty chai, and I thought she said it was made with oat milk. And I was like, perfect, I'll drink this and try it. I haven't had her chai yet. And then that night I was in the bathroom for 6 hours in and out because it was whole milk, and maybe my body can't process lactose 100% effectively. I would not call that intolerant. I refuse to claim that.
Sure, we can call whatever we want, but it sounds like you are at least intolerant of lactose.
In the milk form, yogurt and ice cream are fine.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Well, whatever it is, Frank says this feels horrible. Ella apparently kept updating during the whole ride of whatever speed Arion was traveling at, so that, of course, didn't help the situation. And while they were riding, they passed islands, they confused whales, they passed Crescent Beach and Boundary Bay, which I guess makes sense if you are Canadian. Those look familiar to Frank because they apparently went sailing there on a school trip. What kind of fancy school did Frank go to? And then they finally venture into Canada. And just as they reach Vancouver, the wheels began to smoke, and Frank yells to Hazel, "We're breaking up," which he better not say once they start dating. Very invested in them working their way all the way through. But Hazel hears him and pulls the reins to get Arion to slow down, which he does despite being displeased with the change. He wanted to keep riding, but he's not a jerk. So that's where we're at. And when the horse in the chariot stops, they are atop a wooden hill, and the horse snorts, which Frank guesses translates to, quote, "That's how we run, fools," which I guess is the coolest thing that Uncle Rick could come up with for the horse to say.
He used up all his cool quips with blackjack.
Yeah. So the smoking chariot collapses, and our heroes fall onto the ground, which is just a great visual comedic sort of bit. Frank tries to get his vision to adjust. Percy groans and unharnesses Arion, and Ella flies around and keeps knocking into trees because she's dizzy. Hazel is the only one that is not out of whack. She dismounts Arion and goes, "That was fun." So she's having a great time.
She's a real horse girl.
She is a real horse girl. Also, can everyone, is this pole blocking anyone's view? A little? Okay, here, let's scooch this table up. I am here to please the people. That's why I dressed as the Maryland state flag today. And shout out to...
And I did my best.
Shout out to my buddy Ricky, who's helping out and running the merch table, and his partner Alexa, who gave us like the most succinct, perfect Maryland history. Because I mentioned like, "Oh yeah, I'm dressing as a state flag. What's the deal behind the state flag?" And then Alexa was like, "Oh," and it's just like in 10 minutes, I feel like I fast-tracked Maryland state history. I feel so caught up to speed. It's wild. I learned it's like a compromise between two people, and like some group is bad, and then all the counties are named after other people. It's ridiculous. I feel so well versed in Maryland, where previously my knowledge of Baltimore was the Yankees play the Orioles sometimes, and there's an aquarium. And that's about it. But we're here for Percy Jackson. So anyway, Percy Jackson. Frank sarcastically.
They're watching the Super Bowl upstairs.
Oh.
It's okay. It's just horse hoof effects.
Yeah. For podcast people, if you couldn't hear that, the ceiling was like people were stomping. All right. Fun. Cool. Okay, well, go team. Did Kendrick just start, actually? Is that... So... All right, okay, books.
Who in the crowd is also trying to watch the game right now?
The significant others dragged along. I get it. I respect it. Cool. Just keep your fist bumps silent. So Hazel thinks this is fun. Frank sarcastically agrees. Arion whinnies. Percy translates the whinny as Arion being hungry. Hazel senses around for gold but doesn't feel any, so she instructs Arion to graze. My question, on what? Like, what's he going to do? Rob a bank? Eat jewelry off of people? What's the plan here?
I don't know what horses eat.
Okay. Noted, not horse
I guess
person.
hay.
I couldn't tell you anything about horse, and I even host a podcast called Horse. I know nothing about him, absolutely nothing about him, except I rode a horse once in my life when Kelly and I were on our honeymoon. Never gonna ride a horse again. It was terrifying. Didn't like it at all. Our horses were feuding. Not a good situation. We were on the beach. There was water involved. They were too close to the water. I didn't like it. One and done.
There's a horse island in Maryland called Assateague Island where they just have wild horses. We went once, and they would try to like eat out of our like backpacks. Yeah.
Maybe they were looking for gold.
You can get like really close up to them because they don't fear people.
I fear them, so I won't be doing that. So while Hazel is talking to Arion, saying you should go graze, he just dashes off. Hazel asks Percy if he thinks that Arion will return. Percy says he's unsure. Frank secretly hopes that he doesn't because he's kind of scared of him, but he doesn't voice this out loud because obviously he loves Hazel.
Aww.
So cute. Percy and Hazel start taking some supplies from the busted chariot. Ella is ecstatic that some books made it along in The Voyage from Amazon. Frank tries to gather himself together, both physically from the fighting and the ride that he was on, and then also emotionally from being caged and also being called a baby man by Arion the horse. He's also
Has every new character meeting Frank insulted him to his face as the first thing?
Not always to his face, but everyone does have a different commentary on his young looks and manly physique. I think everyone so far has some sort of description about him. He's been like a ripped koala bear. He's been a couple of different things. Yeah. None more succinct than baby man from Arion. Now, on top of all this, Frank's also processing the fact that he was, in a flashback in the underworld with Hazel for a long period of time. So he's
like a normal person.
Normal thing. It's just Tuesday. He's glad that he gave her the little firewood stick, but now knowing what lies ahead in the underworld, it gives him this sense of dread for what is to come. He's begun to lose hope that he will ever see his mother again, which he desperately wanted. He thinks that this isn't going to happen because Hazel was there for 70 years and had no luck finding her mom, so how could Frank expect to find his mom? And I think the key difference is that I would assume Frank and his mom are both going to end up in Elysium, which is a completely different situation. But narrator Frank kind of thwarts my thought process here by saying, quote, Frank hoped he and his mom would both end up in Elysium, but if Hazel hadn't gotten there, sacrificing her life to stop Gia, taking responsibility for her actions so that her mother wouldn't end up in punishment, what chance did Frank have? He'd never done anything that heroic. And but you also didn't raise a Titan from the ground to
You
help.
were just there, Frank.
Yes, she did a good thing, but did you forget the part where she did a really bad thing? And that kind of balanced it out? I think you might be okay. Also, what did your mom do wrong? She was objectively definitely a hero. So, I don't know, man. I think you're going to be A-okay. Frank gets his bearings. He sees the skyline to the south across Vancouver Harbor. He sees the hills and rainforests of Lynn Canton Park to the north. And I just got to say...
Canyon.
Canyon? Oh, not... Wait, really? Yes. Okay.
I've been there.
Okay. Oh, what's it like?
It's cool.
Cool.
There's like a rope walk thing that there's like a big drop below.
Ooh.
That was the worst way to describe that, but there's a picture I took, and I'm terrible at describing pictures.
It's okay, it's a podcast, so it doesn't matter. What is Canton, then, that my notes app didn't autocorrect me? Look, I'm just playing to the home crowd. I'm really just trying to make this the most Maryland show possible. That's fantastic. Cool, nailed it. But what I have to say is, as a person who lived in Seattle for a couple of years, who was very excited that they were going to Seattle in this book, I was so disappointed that they didn't actually do anything Seattle-y in Seattle.
They had coffee.
Yeah, but like nothing like... They had someone who like clearly Rick did zero research. He was just like, oh yeah, coffee and rain, Seattle. They didn't do like anything specific, and now they're getting all these like cool name drops for Vancouver.
Because they're filming there.
Yeah, but this book was written in 2011.
But he had the power of foresight.
Okay. I was gonna say like he wasn't there for the Fox films, right? So something in life must have brought him to Vancouver because Vancouver got a way better treatment than Seattle, and I was very disappointed. But Vancouver is very lovely. It's just I didn't live there, so I didn't get to go Leonardo DiCaprio pointing meme for an hour and a half on the episode, so maybe it's for the best. Frank knows the park that he is in, and he knows that it's close to his grandma's house, so he points it out, and Hazel asks how far, and he says, just over the river and through the woods. And I wrote, this has to be like a cool intentional grandmother's house we go reference, right? But then Percy calls it out the next line. He goes, really? To grandmother's house we go? So good. I love it. I love Percy. Frank tries to move past this because he's embarrassed by giving that description. Hazel asks if his grandma will let them stay for the night because they need to rest. And also, Hazel is enamored with the idea of having a proper home-cooked meal. She says that Arion saved them time with the travel of going at the speed of sound, so they should be able to fit it in. And I feel like they should totally do it at this point. I was like, you guys should definitely do this. This seems like a good, safe plan. Ha 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 ha. Percy adds that a hot shower and sleeping in a proper bed with sheets and a pillow would be super nice, which I agree with. Anytime I've gone on any sort of like camping adjacent trip, that first shower back,
I've never been camping because I refuse to do that.
I'm not about it. I've only gone like true like sleep on the ground camping once when, not the eclipse that just happened, but the previous one. I was in Seattle. We did this thing. We were into like middle of nowhere, Idaho. And we just like did a thing where we like drove for like 9.5 hours and then just like camped at a campground and then kept driving. And yeah, I was, again, a one and done situation of like, this was cool. I'm glad I got to do it to see the eclipse. But like, I would never just go regular camping. I'm all about glamping. Let me go on a hike. Let me be out in the woods. And then when we're done, I would like to shower and sleep in a bed, please.
I camped in my friend's backyard once, and that was enough.
Yeah. Unless there's like a thing where like you have to camp in order to do it, like the eclipse or like some sort of cool sunrise on a mountain, like unless it is a limiting factor into doing something else, not doing it. Not going to do it. Frank worries about what his grandmother would think if they all showed up. He finds it ironic that he didn't want to leave her house initially, and now he is scared to return. Ultimately, though, he decides that it is worth it because they've been traveling for over 2 days without good food or sleep, plus Grandma could give them supplies and advice and possibly answers. So they decide to go, and then we get this line after a line break. Frank was so distracted, he would have walked right into the ogre's camp. Fortunately, Percy pulled him back. Whoa, okay, This feels like it would be a new chapter if Uncle Rick didn't have like 4 full chapters worth of stuff. Like this feels like it would have been a break if not the preamble only being like 2.5 or 3 pages or whatever it was. So they hide. Ella whispers that this is a bad place for harpies. It's night, it's dark, and there are 6 8-foot-tall humanoids with shaggy hair sitting around a campfire. They're wearing surfer shorts, they have sunstroke red skin, they have tattoos that feel very biker gang-ish. And I was like, biker gang tattoos? This kind of feels like the Laistrogonians. This is kind of weird. Would they really reintroduce...
Fashion icons, though.
Yeah, I mean... good looks. But I was just thinking, like, are they really going to reintroduce this motif? Not thinking, like, it could just be the Laistrogonians. But because they said ogres and hairy, I didn't remember the Laistrogonians being hairy in the second book. I think
they were just tall and buff.
That's what I thought, too. So that's why I thought these might be different people. Now, these people who we don't know exactly who they are yet, they have a skinned boar over a fire. They're picking at it with their hands. And next to them are bags filled with bronze spheres that look like cannonballs. So then it's like, okay, this is definitely the Laistrogonians. Absolutely. Frank's grandma's house is just about 200 yards away, and Frank wonders if sneaking past them is an option. But he sees campfires spread throughout the area, so he gets a bit concerned. And he's worried about his grandmother being trapped in her house. So he asks the group, who are these people? And Percy replies, Canadians. And Frank, a Canadian, goes, excuse me? Which is fantastic. But Percy clarifies that he did not mean it as an insult. It's just what Annabeth called them when they fought them before, and she described to him.
Do you think the Laistrogonians are what Percy thinks of as Canadians when he thinks of the stereotypical Canadian?
I don't think so, but I think it would be like a squares and rectangles thing where it's like, oh, not all Canadians are Laistrogonians, but all of these Laistrogonians are Canadians. Because also weren't I don't know if this was described that way to him, but the ice giants, I forget them. The Hyperboreans, thank you.
Oh, they were also Canadians.
Also Canadians. So Percy's like, okay, yeah, Canadians are wild, guys. And there's all these different types. But yeah, I don't think he thinks every Canadian is that, but he sees that type. It's like, oh, that's a type of Canadian. Giant, tall, throw exploding cannonballs. Canada. Now, after clarifying this, Frank growls that they are in Canada, and Frank, is Canadian, but he's never seen those things before. Ella confirms that they are the Laistrogonians. And then, something that's super fun, we haven't had this happen, I don't know if this has happened at all in the Heroes of Olympus books yet, but we get our first little like, oh, hey, that thing you know is actually a Greek thing. She credits the Sasquatch legend to Laistrogonians. So that makes the hairy ogreness make more sense. But I love this, because I love when they're like, oh yeah, Houdini was in the Hermes cabin, whatever. Now it's like, oh yeah, the Sasquatch was actually a Laistrogonian. That's so fun. So then Frank compliments Ella, calling her smart. She thanks Frank by giving him a feather, which he puts in his pocket. And then Hazel is glaring at him, and he's confused, as am I. And then she says nothing, which definitely means something. My question, is she jealous of Ella?
Yes!
But Ella's a harpy. Doesn't she look like a chicken? What's going on here?
That's not how jealousy works.
Okay, yeah, asked and answered. Hazel then turns to Percy and asks if his memory has returned enough to where he knows how to defeat these giants. Percy says he thinks that they had help, but he knows for sure that they used celestial bronze. He also recalls the cannonballs being a pain to deal with. And when he notes that they catch fire and explode, Frank instinctively reaches in his coat pocket before remembering that he gave the stick to Hazel. Frank warns that causing an explosion would alert the other camping groups by the looks of it, since they're not too far away. He worries that they could be fending off up to 60 ogres at once. So let's try to not cause a scene here. Hazel thinks that this is a trap and asks Frank if his grandmother is okay, and all of them agree that they should help her regardless of what's going on. Frank cannot believe that he has to rescue his own grandma, but he strategizes and says that they need to make a distraction for the group of 6 ogres near them. If they can get them, the ogres, into the woods, then our team can sneak past undetected. Hazel wishes that Arion was here because she could get the ogres to chase her. Frank takes his spear off and says that he has an idea. It's like, ooh, okay, bony boy, Gray is coming back, let's go. Narrator Frank says, quote, Frank didn't want to do this. The idea of summoning Gray scared him even more than Hazel's horse, but he didn't see another way. I'm stoked. I like Gray. I think he's fun. Dude, just immediately takes things to level 11, right off the jump, and that is exactly what happens here. Hazel thinks that Frank is going to gear up and charge at the giants, and she's like, that's suicide, you can't do it. But he says that's not what he's doing. He says he has a friend, and he warns everyone not to scream, which is not a good enough warning for what happens. That is a good piece of advice, I guess, but we'll see. I feel like he could have done a better job here. Because Frank jabs his spear into the ground, and then Ella goes, oops, no spear point, nope. And then Gray emerges. Percy immediately fumbles for Riptide. Hazel makes a sound, quote, like a cat with a hairball. And yeah, Frank, I feel like you should have said, hi guys, I'm gonna put my spear into the ground, and then a giant gelatinous skeleton in army clothes is gonna pop out of the ground.
And he's a killing machine, so just stay away.
And don't scream. That should have been the preamble to don't scream. So naturally, they all freak out, completely understandably. Ella zooms to the top of a tree. Frank tries to assure them that Gray is under control, which he is, by nature, this dude is not really under control. You have to give him very strict definitions.
And then Gray immediately proves him wrong.
So when Gray fully exits the ground, he looks good as new. He's fully healed from his previous injuries when he fought off the basilisks. And he turns to Frank for orders. And Percy instinctively knows that Gray is okay, that's not it. That can't be right. That has to be an autocorrect. There's no way it's sprat. There's no way.
Spartus,
thank you. What is a sprat? Why did autocorrect be this is what you meant? Spartus, thank you. Wow. That Gray is a Spartus, a skeleton warrior. And Percy, because he was in Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse, says that they're evil. And Frank says, yeah, but this is a gift from Mars, and this is all that we've got. So we're just going to roll with it. So he orders Gray to attack the ogres and then lead them to the west, where they will cause a diversion. Frank tries to be more specific, giving more follow-up information, but Gray has already sprung into action. He charges towards the giants, pulls out 2 of his own ribs, stabs the ogres in the back so quickly that they cannot even yell. And this reminds me of, I think it's the actor in The Lord of the Rings who played Saruman. I believe this is a cool behind-the-scenes thing where, I don't know if they were asking him or if he got the direction of when he or someone else in the movie gets stabbed in the back to go ah, and fall to the ground. And because I think he was in a war, he's oh, when you get stabbed in the back, you don't groan. You just lose your breath. And that's to hear that
punctured lung.
Yeah, to hear that from an actor's oh my, what the heck is this? So He stabs them so quick that they cannot even yell. And what was funny about this is I had forgotten that Gray was like this intense. Thankfully, I read the chapter and prepared the notes for this live show before finishing the episode on the Amtrak to Baltimore for this live show. So I got to have this thing of like, when he started doing this, I was like, whoa, Gray, dude! And I totally would have like expected it had I remembered that Gray is a monster. Narrator Frank says, quote, 6 extremely surprised-looking Laestrygonians fell sideways like a circle of dominoes and crumbled into dust. So Gray is an absolute machine of killing. I love it. He stomps around their ashes like he did last time to the basilisks. He stands at attention and then sinks into the floor. What a vibe. What an entrance. What a performance. What an exit. The theatrics of Gray are top-notch.
Making the most of his 15 seconds of fame.
Truly, truly. He's like Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. He's in the movie for 15 minutes, wins the Best Actor Oscar. Yes, correct. Percy is absolutely gobsmacked. He stares at Frank, and he begins to ask, how? But Ella interjects to say, no, Laestrygonian, 6 minus 6 is 0. Spears are good for subtraction. Yep, and I will be honest, I find Ella super annoying.
Oh, I love
I
Ella.
know she seems sweet. I don't find her existence annoying. I think she's cute and sweet and everything. But reading the book, she never contributes anything because
No,
all she does
It's
is
just nonsense narration.
But it's just like she just says whatever just
It's like
happened.
the commentary that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande did for Wicked. It's like, it's adding nothing, but it's adding so much.
I guess I'm specifically annoyed by it because when I'm reading these, I'm like reading a line and then taking a note. And literally every time Ella does something, I want to write the note. Ella says what you just read, but less conveniently or more confusingly or whatever. So I think it's a very specific niche, but I am like not. I think she's great, but also if she never said anything in any chapter and it was just like, Ella's still here, I'd be like, cool, thumbs up, great. Narrator Frank says, quote, Hazel looked at Frank as if he'd turned into a zombie skeleton himself. And Frank is heartbroken, but he cannot falter because everything that just transpired was wild. He thinks that her being appalled at him is because he's a child of Mars and thus overly violent. And that's just like how he is, which couldn't be farther from the truth
She's
for
still
Frank.
not over the feather.
Oh, it's because Ella spoke. Ah. Narrator Frank says, quote, he glared down at the broken tip of his spear. He wished he had any father but Mars. Let's go, he said. My grandmother might be in trouble. And it's just a sad note to end on. I like Frank. I want him to be happier. I don't want him to be so upset at his Mars parenting situation. And chapter 34 will kind of get into that. So I've retitled chapter 33, Our Friend Makes Skewers at the Campfire.
Nice. Mine is The Gray Brother Returns. You guys will find out at midnight.
Yeah, you'll find out.
It's a callback to Mike's retitling of one of the chapters we did there.
Yes, you'll get there, but, not too many spoilers. You just have to wait a cool 3 hours and 32 minutes, and then you can hear it. Or 0 minutes if you're a patron. During intermission, start listening to the episode. All right, chapter 34 is called Frank. It opens with, quote, they stopped at the front porch, which is one of our opening lines that is not a banger. It is just factual. Frank's fear of the house being surrounded with campfires has been confirmed. These campfires are littering the field, but thankfully the house itself seems to be okay. Frank doesn't go for the doorbell because he's unsure if his grandmother is awake. He looks for the spare key underneath the elephant statue. Chekhov's elephant statue, since Frank referenced that a couple of chapters ago. He hesitates at the door, prompting Percy to ask him, what's up? Because Percy is a good friend. And Frank remembers opening this door for the military officer who delivered him the bad news about his mother. That and the whole funeral seems so long ago, but it was just 6 weeks prior. Frank wonders if he will be hugged or scolded upon his grandmother seeing him. He thinks it's going to be the latter, or he thinks that his grandmother might mistake them for intruders. Hazel snaps Frank out of this by asking, Frank? And then Ella chimes in, saying that she's nervous and that the elephant is looking at her. Frank says it'll all be okay if they stick together. And I thought something was for sure up with the elephant. I was fully convinced that the evil person waiting for them in the house was going to be some sort of evil being that controls statues or elephants or both, and I really thought this was going to be something else. Was she just upset because of the elephant statue reminding her of the whole Phineas era of her life?
I don't know, but also the footsteps upstairs, that's the elephant.
Yeah. I was going to say, it sounds like the speakers sound like Kendrick Lamar is. What's that? He's calling Drake a pedophile? What? So
The fact
good.
that he won so many Grammys for that.
So good. I don't know if this is true, but if it's not, no one told me otherwise. Someone told me that he won more Grammys. Oh yeah, now he's playing. Yeah. I remember syrup sandwich. Okay. This is great. Thank you, Kendrick, for underscoring this part of the show. Wow. Someone told me that he won more Grammys for Not Like Us than Drake has ever won in his career. It's correct. Oh, thank God. I've been a Drake hater since like my freshman year of college, just because I
he's
didn't like his
Canadian?
music and I thought he was corny. Like I just thought he was like trying too hard and like wasn't cool. Turns out he's like really not cool for different reasons. But man, as a longtime Drake hater, this is just so good for me. And as a longtime Kendrick
Conveniently,
lover,
there's Canadians in this chapter.
but I've also loved Kendrick. There's just Kendrick's been my favorite rapper for a long time, and Drake's been my least favorite rapper for a whole time. So this whole situation is just like right in my wheelhouse. It's really good. Anyway, Percy Jackson. So the house indoors smells musty. The usual jasmine incense is not burning. There's dirty dishes in the sink. That's very unusual because they normally have a maid that comes through every day. So Frank thinks that something is for sure up. He worries that the Laestrygonians may have eaten the maid, but he hopes that the teachings that he learned about monsters, usually ignoring regular mortals, holds true. They pass Buddha and Taoist statues that creep him out.
How does he know she's a regular mortal?
His grandma?
The maid.
Or the maid. Ooh, magical maid. You're right. That could be fun. So he passes Buddha and Taoist statues that creep him out. Frank notices his grandma's porcelain vases are lined with cobwebs, which is also suspicious to him. He is then reminded that he broke some with his anger archery, and he feels bad about that. And he also thinks that being mad at his grandmother is so whack in retrospect, given that now he has like a whole laundry list of people to be upset about. He's mad at Juno, he's mad at Gia, he's mad at the Giants, he's mad especially at Mars, which I think is so strange because Mars did give you the spear that has saved your life twice now.
But
I don't know
he
why you
also
are especially mad at
gave
Mars.
him life.
Oh.
So like all these troubles came from Mars.
Yeah, if I didn't exist, I wouldn't have to deal with any of this. Oh, so dark. Now, Hazel sees the fireplace and asks Frank if it's ... And Frank says that it is. And Percy asks, what? And Frank says, the fireplace, which he realizes sounds absurd, but he doesn't want to talk about it.
Also,
so he just
I don't
moves
think
past
Percy
it.
knows the whole stick backstory.
Oh, no, he doesn't. That's why this is hilarious. Percy has no idea what's going on. And
I mean, makes sense for the book.
yes, but also I can understand Frank not wanting to talk about it, but like I can just imagine them continuing through the house. Percy's like, the fireplace? What? Yeah, obviously it's a fireplace. What? Just ridiculous. Frank takes them upstairs to check to see if anyone's there. His old room looks the same. It is filled with his spare bow and quiver. He's got spelling awards, which, as the narrator, he says, quote, yeah, he probably was the only non-dyslexic spelling champion demigod in the world, as if he weren't enough of a freak already. Here's my question, because the adjectives are unclear. Is Frank non-dyslexic, or is he a non-dyslexic spelling champion? Like,
I
is
think
there a...
he's not dyslexic because earlier he established he doesn't have ADHD. So he's like, oh, I don't have like the typical demigod traits. My family's like not the typical demigod family. Like he has all these like things where he's not quite fitting in and he's like having an identity crisis.
Okay, yeah.
Which added on top of the like Canadian Asian identity crisis. That's
You're
like
gonna
a whole
say
other
the Asian
thing.
Yes, okay. That makes more sense because I was like, is he describing a spelling bee? Like,
I think he did win a spelling bee.
Yeah, but it's not like he was in like the non-dyslexic
No.
spelling bee and then there is like the separate dyslexic spelling bee. Yeah, that makes way more sense. But I was like, I don't know, man. I've only ever been in my school's spelling bee. So,
I was so close to winning. Not my schools, but my grades. And then I spelled the word awkward wrong, so I panicked.
oh, that's...
Awkward.
I've told the story, I think, on the podcast, but I won my grade and then I lost in the like school competition because the principal, she said colt, and I was like the horse? And she said yes. And then I said C-O-L-T. And she said no, C-U-L-T. And I was like, that's not the horse. I was in 5th grade and that was my reply. I don't know if she didn't hear me or if my principal was an idiot. But the word was cult, not colt.
Maybe there's a cult called horse.
I don't know. I was a 5th grade boy. I was like, oh yes, like the Indianapolis Colts, right? See, I know football. Anyway.
Didn't they used to be in Baltimore?
The what? Oh. Oh. So they were the Baltimore Colts, and then they became the Indianapolis Colts, and then you got the Ravens? They left Baltimore. Well, okay, you look very passionate. What is the history of the Baltimore Colts?
No, they fully left Baltimore. They snuck out and
And then they
it was a whole sore spot.
Oh, okay.
Old. Yeah.
Oh, so it's an old thing, not just the team got relocated, modern kind of thing? Whoa. Sounds like way more intrigue. Okay. But then you got the Ravens and I got the Ravens. And you guys won the Super Bowl one time, right? Twice? Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
The 1 year I didn't live in Baltimore was the year the Ravens won the Super Bowl. My sister was very upset.
Unfortunate. All right, anyway, Percy Jackson. Also in his room, Frank has a bunch of photos of his mom. Hazel says, Frank, your mom is beautiful. Frank is too embarrassed by being a 16-year-old with loads of pictures of his mom. He doesn't want to respond because he's so embarrassed. Dude, first off, having pictures of your mom, fine. 16-year-old boy and you have pictures of your mom, fine. 16-year-old boy having pictures of your recently deceased mom, super duper normal, Frank. Honestly, it'd be weird otherwise. This is not weird at all. You're good, man. So the middle two bedrooms upstairs are empty. They then progress to Grandma's room, where a faint light flickers beneath the door. So I was like, oh, baby, someone's in there. Frank knocks. There's no answer, so they enter. And Grandma is in bed looking rough, and Mars is at her bedside. And he welcomes Frank in, but instructs him to tell his friends to beat it. And no one else can see Mars. Ooh. Mars acknowledges this to Frank, saying that he thought a private father-son conversation would be more appropriate this time, which I think is interesting. And right off the bat, I had already kind of liked Mars before this, and I liked this move from Mars. And as this chapter goes, I really like Mars. I think he's great.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know what else is to come, but at least in this chapter, he seems pretty good. Definitely a huge
I
improvement
think
over
my
Ares.
hate towards Ares bleeds into my hate towards Mars.
Naturally, but I'm really viewing them as different people because he just has such different and such better vibes. So Frank says it's nothing. He tells the team to take the middle bedrooms. Ella says that the roof works better for her anyway. That conveniently allows no one to have to double up, so this all works. Frank tells them that there's probably food in the kitchen and then asks for a minute alone with his grandmother because he thinks and then his voice breaks. Hazel touches his arm, says of course, and then leads the other two out with her. Someone just got tackled upstairs. It's one of the 4DX experiences for the game. Frank enters the room and asks Mars if it's really him or an illusion of sorts. And Mars can tell that Frank wishes that it was fake. Frank admits that this is true. And Mars says he can't blame him. Look at Mars, understanding Frank's ire towards him. He's self-aware. He says that no one welcomes war if they are smart, but it finds you. The A minor line just happened. There we go. I was waiting for it. So he did play it that good. God, what a day. Mars says, no one welcomes war if they are smart, but it finds you eventually as it's inevitable. And Frank thinks that is a foolish notion as war kills. But Mars adds that it took his mom and that enrages Frank. And he wishes that, good job, Kendrick, yay! The funny thing is, my audio cleanup software probably got rid of all of that, so the people in the podcast are like, what is he responding to?
Mars! He's not in the room!
Frank thinks, this, it's kind of distracting now because I can tell where they are in the song. Okay. Frank wishes his grandma would wake up because if anyone can take Mars, it's her. Mars tells Frank that she's ready to move on and she's been prepared for weeks, but she's only held on for Frank, which I think is very sweet. Frank is floored, wondering how she knew that they would return when he didn't even know that he would return. Mars says that the Laestrygonians outside clearly knew, so some goddess must have tipped them off. And Frank is like, God damn it, Juno! And Mars is like, it's definitely Gia. He lets out a hearty laugh and says, no, it's not Juno, it's Gia. And to further reiterate why it wouldn't be Juno, he says to Frank, you're Juno's secret weapon. And I'm thinking, ooh, secret weapon. Mars says that he thinks Gia is more worried about Frank than anyone else in the seven. So I'm pretty sure that this now brings us to Leo, Piper, and Frank, whose godly parent has said, you're the most important of the seven. Everyone's so worried about you. Gia's so scared of you, and Juno likes you the most. This for sure happened in the other dreams, right? I think everyone's parent is like, you're the most special.
Have that too?
I don't know. Has Poseidon talked to Percy?
But didn't Gia talk to Percy and say,
Gia, but yeah.
I forget what happened in the chapter before these.
Gia's like said she wants to control him. I think he's important. So like he hasn't had it specifically from his parent, but the other one, like straight up, their parents are like, "You're the best boy." So I just think it's funny. I want to see if that trend continues. Frank starts freaking out that he's part of the Seven from the Great Prophecy, and it's just super fun. I didn't even like put that together, but like this is the first time where he would realize this. Mars tries to wave this off as something that is plain to see. He and his friends are all part of this mission. This is kind of their setup for the Great Prophecy. Quote, Juno aims to unite the Greeks and Romans and send them against the giants. She believes it's the only way to stop Gia. So Mars is basically the anti-Chiron, where he is just like, here's the plot right away, dude. It's just like straight to the point. No dancing around it, just straight line. Here's the plot. We're progressing the story, catching you up to speed. Mars seems unconvinced by Juno's plan, but he goes on to say that Gia doesn't want Frank as part of the Seven, and that Gia thinks that she can control Percy. She feels that she can exploit the weaknesses of everyone else in the Seven, but she cannot do so for Frank. She wants to kill Frank as soon as possible, hence the Laestrygonians, and Frank thinks that surely this must be a joke. How could she be worried about him, but not Percy Jackson? Frank tells Mars that he himself is a walking weakness. When Mars says, you don't have any weaknesses, he says he's a walking one because my life depends on a freaking little stick. And Mars smiles and says that Frank is selling himself short. And look, I love Mars. He's being a good dad. I know Ares sucks, but this dude seems wonderful. Mars concludes with saying that Gia told the Laestrygonians that if they eat the last member of the Jong line, Frank, then they will obtain the family gift. And I did write in my notes, have we learned what that is yet? And thankfully, by editing the episode, you'll all hear in a couple of hours, no, we didn't learn what it is yet. So the Laestrygonians are hungry to try. And I can only imagine Mars looked at the fourth wall and winked when he said that. Frank is worried because even with Gray eliminating 6 of the cannibals, so many remain. Frank says that he's going to throw up. Mars says he's not, and then snaps his fingers, and Frank is cured. He says battle jitters happens to everyone. And
this is the type of anti-nausea medication I'd like, because, when you live in New York and you ride subways, when you're in a car, the first 30 minutes, you will want to throw up.
Dude, yeah. I don't know if it's because of the stop and go traffic. I don't know if it's because taxi drivers are wild. I don't know if it's because taxi drivers like to make their cars super duper warm. I am also...
And they stink of car freshener.
Yes. Oh, they're just the strongest trees. Oh, they're so bad. All of those combinations... And I also just get motion sickness in cars. Every time I'm in a car in New York, it's just rough.
We used to do road trips for vacations instead of flying. I threw up on every single one as a kid.
Yeah, I used to not be able to. I can do a better job about it now, but still not a lot. I used to not be able to read in a car, and this was like a significant hindrance to me catching up with my friends playing Pokémon. I couldn't play Game Boy in the car for a while. And like my friends would be onto like the 5th or 6th badge in Pokemon Blue, and I'd be like, I'm still beating Misty. Ugh. Frank changes the subject to his grandma, which Mars calls the bait for Frank, and he says that likely the giants will attack in the morning. Frank tells Mars to get them all out of there if that's the case. Tells him, snap your fingers, do your step, blow up the cannibals. Mars admits, though that does sound fun, he cannot fight his children's battles for them. He says that this is Frank's quest, and also reminds Frank that the spear will be out of commission for another 24 hours, so he's going to have to come up with a cool plan B. Yay! This all ends with him telling Frank that he hopes he's learned how to use the family gift. Otherwise, he'll be breakfast for cannibals, cannibal breakfast. Yeah, you bought tickets, you know what you're going to get. Frank wants to talk to his grandmother about the gift, but he thinks that he's going to have to discuss it with Mars. So he says Periclymenus, sounding it out like he's at a spelling bee, and he identifies him as his ancestor, an Argonaut, and a Greek prince who died fighting Hercules. Mars motions for him to continue, and I'm honestly shocked that he didn't correct him to Heracles. I really thought that was going to be the next line, but I guess we don't want to...
No, Hercules is the Roman.
Hercules is the Roman. Oh, never mind then. Moving on. Frank next says that his ancestor had an ability that helped him in combat, a gift from the gods. His mom said he, quote, fought like a swarm of bees. And in the episode you're going to soon hear, I think this is a literal thing. Like, I think that Frank's ability, and I'm not going to look in anybody's eyes or not even in your face, Sherry, because even by the end of this chapter, we don't learn. But I think that Frank's ability is to shapeshift into different animals, because his mom said stuff like he fought like a swarm of bees, and also like he was the greatest of the dragons. So I think like he can turn into bees, he can turn into dragons. That is the family gift. So that is what my thought is. But we're gonna just continue because that trapdoor's got to stay intact. Mars laughs, making me think that I might be right, and asks Frank what else he knows. Frank replies that somehow their family got to China. Then in the days of the Roman Empire, one of Periclymenus' descendants served in a legion, says his mom told him stories of Seneca Gracchus, who also had a Chinese name, Son Guo.
I've been name dropped.
This was
Again.
This was not planned. The last time you were intentionally on for those chapters, partially because your last
Because of the name drop,
Yes.
partially also because Iris, best side character on this book.
She's super duper fun. But what's especially funny is like this was not planned. Like
No.
you being at the Baltimore show is planned because you're from here and your sister's here, and there was like a whole thing. But specifically doing these chapters, pure stupid luck that we have it. The 2 times that you've been on Son of Neptune chapters has been when the word Guo has shown up in the
And the
book.
chapter parallels are just perfect.
It's really lined up so well. You all hear the crowd when you listen to the episode later. You're going to be like, wow, what an experience that we all had, and we just didn't know it. This brings Frank to the part that he doesn't know. Quote, Reyna always said that there were many lost legions. The 12th founded Camp Jupiter. Maybe there was another legion that disappeared into the east. And I was like, the east? New York, Camp Half-Blood. Oh, like, is that what's going on? If you go all the way around east, you'll get to the other side. Mars says that is a pretty good summary, and then asks Frank if he knows about the Battle of Carhay, which I will have to ask Dr. Moya about. Do you know about this Battle of Carhay? Okay. So this is the description of it that's given. Quote, huge disaster for the Romans. They fought these guys called the Parthians on the eastern border of the empire. 15,000 Romans died. 10,000 more were taken prisoner. Frank guesses that Mars is about to reveal one of the prisoners was Son Guo, and that is confirmed. Mars says that the Parthians put the captives to work in the fighting since they were adept fighters, but then they were invaded from the other direction, and Frank guesses that those invaders were the Chinese, so the Roman prisoners then were turned into fighters, who were then turned into prisoners for the Chinese. So that's how you get to it, and it's in the previous Frank chapters. He was like, how the heck did my family go from here to there to here to there? And then a couple chapters later, he's talking with Mars, and Mars is like, here's exactly how your family went from here to there to here to there to here to there.
Mars is also the anti-Iris because she was like, I can't tell you, Frank. You're going to have to find out on your own. It reminds me of that episode of Schitt's Creek when Moira and David are trying to fold the cheese. And she's like, I cannot tell you everything, David. And he's like, well, can you tell me one thing? You fold it in.
I think it's
best show on the planet.
I'll have to watch it at some point.
Aside from
Unsurprisingly,
Ted
I have
Lasso
not
and
seen it.
Shrinking.
Of course,
And
I haven't
Severance.
seen it. Did you say and Severance?
All the Apple TV shows
Are you a
so
Severance
good.
watcher?
Yes, I'm not caught up on this season, but the first season I was
Sherry, you
gripped.
have to. The
I
episode
know,
from this
my
week
Apple
was
TV
nuts.
free trial expired, and I ran out of them.
Oh no, I will give you whatever $7 so that you got it. It's so good.
It's okay. There are very legal ways of watching that.
Yo ho! But gosh, where even were there's so many things. Oh yes. I haven't seen Schitt's Creek, so I'll have to make a paddle up
It's on
Schitt's Creek
Hulu
without
right
a
now.
paddle will be my podcast where I do all that. I think I said I'll have to make a paddle. I'll have to make a podcast. Other P word. Anyway, Percy Jackson. So Mars says that's correct, and that's how a Roman legion got to China. And he says that the Romans put down roots and built a new hometown. And Frank knows this to be Lijian. And I was like, oh. Complete whoosh, as you'll hear the first time Lijian got brought up, because my brain was all like, pronounce it properly, and not thinking about this next line where Frank says, quote, my mother said that was our ancestral home, Lijian, legion. Completely missed it. Now, here's my question. Is this true? Is this cool? Is this whack? Is this Uncle Rick being crafty?
So I looked this up because I was curious too.
Okay.
There was some researcher that came up with this theory that Romans somehow made it to China. I think it's been disproven more or less because he just kind of came up with it out of nowhere. And there's no real concrete evidence based on what I read on Wikipedia. So take that all with a grain of salt.
Wikipedia is so reputable now. It's more reputable than many other things.
It was the Google AI experimental summary of the Wikipedia
Oh no,
page.
it's tough. It's hard because what's funny is before
It's hard because I specifically looked up in relation to Heroes of Olympus. So it was trying to summarize the Riordan wiki and then like the real Wikipedia, it was a mess.
The Google auto thing is a mess because like you'll have the AI one, which is wrong, but before they did the AI, they would actually like accurately scrape
Yeah.
things. So sometimes you'll search and you'll get the AI garbage that tells you like you should put windshield wiper fluid in your socks to make them soft. And then you'll get the next one that's like actually just copy paste from Wikipedia and it's longer and is like actually good using Google. And then there's like 7,000 ads. Google is a mess now. It's so hard. I'm gonna have to like go to the library to look up stuff. Oh. Anyway, Percy Jackson. So Mars is delighted with Frank's knowledge and deductive reasoning. I love that he is proud of Frank. This is great. He says that Seneca Gracchus had the family gift, and Frank recalls his mother saying that he fought dragons and was the most powerful dragon of all. So continuing to further my theory here. Mars says, in response to the best dragon of all, Mars goes, he was good, but not good enough to shake the bad luck of his legion. He says that he settled in China, he passed the family gift on to his kids, and eventually the family emigrated to North America and found their way to Camp Jupiter. Frank brings up Juno, telling him that he would bring the family full circle, and Mars says, we'll see, and then explains that Frank's grandma wanted to tell all of this to Frank herself, but Mars stepped in to do so because she doesn't have the strength. And then he asks Frank if he understands the gift. And the narrator Frank says, quote, Frank hesitated. He had an idea, but it seemed crazy, even crazier than a family moving from Greece to Rome to China to Canada. He didn't want to say it aloud. He didn't want to be wrong and have Mars laugh at him. And he just reveals to Mars that he thinks he does, but he admits that he doesn't think that he can take on an ogre army. And Mars levels with Frank that it will be tough, but he says that when Grandma wakes in the morning, she will give him some assistance and then likely perish. And Frank thinks that this is wild and that they should try to save her, but Mars says that she has lived a full life and is ready to move on, so Frank shouldn't be selfish. And then Frank yells, selfish? And Mars replies that his grandma only held on out of a sense of duty, which reminds him of Frank's mother and was one of the reasons that he loved her. And then I was like, oh, love, wow, Mars, look at this, he's so good. She put duty in front of everything, even her own life, quote, even me. He removes his shades to reveal eyes that look like balls of fire. And he says, quote, self-pity isn't helpful, kid. It isn't worthy of you. Even without the family gift, your mom gave you your most important traits, bravery, loyalty, brains. Now you've got to decide how to use them. In the morning, listen to your grandmother, take her advice. You can still free Thanatos and save the camp. I love Mars. I think he's great. I love that he calls him kid. It's like the nice version of Ares calling people he doesn't like punk. I think it's so good. I'm all in. Frank then adds, quote, and leave my grandmother behind to die, which Mars counters that life is only precious because it ends. And he says that mortals don't know how lucky they are. And I continue to think that, like, this is the overall moral of the Percy Jackson, Rick Riordan book series is just, you super don't want to be immortal. You don't want to live forever. It's really bad, guys. That is the consistent trend throughout all of these books.
Keeping up with anti-aging, you know, it's really hard, guys. For thousands of years,
Gotta
to stay this young.
You gotta learn what retinol is. Oh.
You're gonna go through so many different lines of Clinique products.
Frank sarcastically says, lucky, real lucky. And Mars laughs and begins to relay a Chinese prophecy that Frank's mom used to say. And Frank knows what it is. Eat bitter, taste sweet. Frank hates it. Mars loves it because it's the old school version of no pain, no gain. Quote, you do the easy thing, the appealing thing, the peaceful thing. Mostly it turns out sour in the end. But if you take the hard path, that's how you reap the sweet rewards. Duty, sacrifice, they mean something. And Frank is upset. Quote, Frank was so disgusted he could hardly speak. This was his father? This feels like a weird response to me. Like, this is not a bad thing
He
for
just
Mars
wants
to
Apollo and his
say.
dad so bad.
Yeah, I guess. Like, it doesn't even feel like this is anything like overtly violent or warlike. Literally, Mars just saying, if you do the hard thing, you are more rewarded in the end. Like, this goes to so many things. It's
I feel
like
like
beating a video game on hard mode is so much more rewarding, Frank. Like, what are you talking about?
I feel like Frank's like, my life's already on hard mode. Can one thing be easy?
Oh, okay,
And he's
yeah.
like, nah, your life's on hard mode. You're going to do everything the hard way.
Yeah, okay. I can see it from that, where Frank is going through a lot of struggles and he doesn't see them as good. And Mars is like, no, these struggles are actually cool and good. Okay, I can see it from that perspective. Now, he doesn't like Frank doesn't like that Mars thinks that what his mom did was good. So that makes me kind of think more of like, I don't really know if I like where Frank's head is at. And Frank, as the narrator, reveals to us that he understands that his mom was a hero by saving lives, but, quote, she'd left him alone. That wasn't fair. That wasn't right. And I was like, you are being selfish, Frank. Mars was right. Like, yes, you are in a tough spot, but you're talking about how your mom saved other people's lives. Like, that's cool. That's an objectively good thing to do. Mars says that he's going to leave, but he wants to leave Frank with a final thought, correcting Frank by Frank thinking that Frank is weak. Frank is not weak, Frank. He asks Frank if he knows why Juno spared him and why the stick hasn't burned yet. And he says that it's because Frank has a role to play. Quote, you think you're not as good as the other Romans. You think Percy Jackson is better than you. And Frank says, he is better than me. They wrote 5 books about him. The title of this one's probably about him.
Did you see him with the water?
He picked up a river.
He whipped you.
He drank poison and didn't die.
He moved a boat with pure will.
He talks to whales.
He speaks horse.
Perfect. That was not scripted. That was phenomenal. I'm so proud of us. That was really good. So Frank says he is, and he does remind Mars, he beat you. And then Mars shrugs it off as unimportant. Great, what a vibe. And he says what is important is that Percy has a fatal flaw. He is too loyal to his friends, and he has a sacrifice upcoming that he will be unable to make. And this kind of vibe keeps coming up. Like, this is not the first time this has been mentioned, and I think I have a thought about what's going to happen, which I'm pretty sure in my notes I'll get into. But Mars says, quote, without you, Frank, without your sense of duty, he's going to fail. The whole war will go sideways, and Gia will destroy our world. So here's my guess, and I'm not going to look at anybody except for my notes. I think that Percy's going to be in some sort of situation where he has to choose one of the 7 or some subset of the 7 to die, and Percy's not going to be able to choose between whatever the options are. So Frank is going to sacrifice himself to kind of like take himself out of the equation and make it so that Percy doesn't have to choose, and he will die holding the stick. Anyway, we continue, no reactions from anyone. Frank doesn't like the sound of this. Mars continues that war is a duty, and the only choices are whether to accept it and what to fight for. He reminds Frank that Rome's legacy, its 5,000-year-long legacy of law, order, traditions, and culture is on the line. It all will fall unless Frank and the 7 win. He thinks that that's worth fighting for, and he hopes that Frank agrees. Frank asks what his fatal flaw is, and Mars says that Frank must answer this himself. And Mars admits, though, that Frank is asking the right questions. He instructs Frank to get some sleep, he waves his hand, and then Frank immediately conks out. It's not so bad being a child of Mars if he can snap his fingers and get rid of your stomach pain and then also wave your hand and you fall asleep immediately. Those
I would love
huge.
that.
That'd be
It
so
takes
good.
so long for me to fall asleep.
I'm very blessed that I'm like a quick to sleep boy. It's my superpower.
I wish. It takes me forever to fall asleep, and then I don't hear my alarms, and I oversleep.
Oh yeah, I do have that. That's definitely my anti-curse.
I had to buy one of those
or my
annoying old
curse.
school alarm clocks with the 2 bells on it that doesn't stop ringing until you turn it off because I slept through work too many times.
I had to buy Clocky. Does anyone know Clocky?
I almost bought Clocky.
I bought Clocky. It is a very loud and annoying alarm clock that has wheels, and you put it like away
to,
from
like,
your
chase
bed.
it, right?
You have to chase it, and it makes a randomized noise, so it like doesn't make the same noise every time, and it like wheels, and that thing is fast. And it just like goes around. So I would like, same thing when I was an engineer and I had to commute, like I would sleep in too much and be late and stuff. So I put it like on the opposite side of my apartment, and it just like goes, and to turn it off like is annoying. Like you can't just like hit a button. It has a snooze button on top, but either mine didn't work or it's a fake snooze button. I'm convinced that the snooze button is fake, but there's like 2 small buttons that you have to like push with your thumbs. Like it truly works. So I had Clocky for quite some time. It was super effective. But now I'm my own boss, and I think you can sleep in. But really what it is now, actually, that was previous Mike Schubert, current Mike Schubert. I have this very effective alarm clock. It's called a 9-month-old daughter. She's the best waking me up.
I'm pretty sure I would sleep through like an active fire in my building.
You should get Clocky. Clocky does great stuff. So he waves. Frank immediately conks out. At this point, I was thinking, oh, dreams? But no, I'm pretty sure it's morning because his grandmother is calling him by Phi, his name that only she calls him. And she's telling him to get up because as much as she would like to get up herself and slap him, she's in no condition to leave the bed. Narrator Frank says, quote, she came into focus looking down at him from the bed. He lay sprawled on the floor. Someone had put a blanket over him during the night and a pillow under his head, but he had no idea how it happened. It was Mars, a good dad. I love
Or
Mars.
was it Hazel?
Ooh, I don't think think
over
so.
the feather?
Nah, I think it's... I think it's good Dad Mars. Frank goes, grandmother? And she replies, yes, my silly ox, which is very cute. Narrator Frank notes that she looks very fragile, but her voice is powerful as ever. She says, quote, now get up. The ogres have surrounded the house. We have much to discuss if you and your friends are to escape here alive. I'm so hyped. What a great way to end the chapter, which I have retitled, A God Tucks Me In.
Ooh.
What have you retitled it?
I've retitled it Dragon Tales.
No! That's also what you
also
did.
a callback.
Another callback. You guys are going to love the next episode.
For this chapter than what I'd picked for that one.
Perfect. Alrighty. Well, that is the end of this part of the episode of the newest Olympian. For now, if you're listening after the fact, we'll take a break and then we'll do Q&A. So let's all just say goodbye to the podcast people.
Goodbye, podcast people.
Hello and welcome to the Son of Fortune Shubio edition, back in the Shubio, back with some updates. They're very fun. Let's get into them. First and foremost, if you listen to this podcast, that means you get the internet. And if you get the internet, that means you can attend a TNO live show we're doing on April 13th at 7 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be streaming the Des Moines, Iowa show, which is half the Newest Olympian, half Potterless. The TNO portion will be covering the Mark of Athena opening chapters. Book 3 of Heroes of Olympus will be kicked off at this live show, which will be streamed. You can watch it live, or you can get access to a 7-day replay if you get your tickets at thenewestolympian.com/live. If you are a patron, you get 20% off tickets, or you could join Patreon and then you'll get 20% off tickets. There's a discount code posted on the Patreon. You can use that discount code and boom, you get 20% off. You can watch it live. You can watch it after the fact. You can do both. You can watch part of it live and then go to sleep and then finish it the next day. Do whatever you want to do. But you will get tickets and you'll get a 7-day replay with those tickets at thenewestolympian.com/live. Again, that's the April 13th live show in Des Moines, Iowa, but it's being streamed and we're covering the first 2 chapters of the next book in the Heroes of Olympus series. And then for Act 2, it'll be Potterless, where we're going to make a Fast and Furious movie with Harry Potter characters, and then we'll end the show with Q&A. You can send in Q&A questions from the live stream. We answer them from wherever, so you can be a part of the Q&A as well. And then there's a live chat going on with the stream. There'll be live chat replay, so you can really feel like what it was like watching it with the community, even if you don't get to watch it live. As mentioned in the past couple episodes, there is new merch up at thenewestolympian.com/merch. At these live shows, I will be selling that new merch, and there is also a fun merch announcement that I should be making on social media during this week. I believe I will be partnering with a local t-shirt company from the Midwest, and I think there will even be a competition for whichever city has the most tickets sold. There will be a special merch item at those shows, but then also with this shirt company, you can order the merch that they're making no matter where you live, and they'll ship it out and stuff. Basically, I don't have 100% of the details locked in quite yet. We're going to figure it out during the week that this episode is being released. So my advice to you would be follow at Newest Olympian on Instagram, Blue Sky, or Twitter, and that is where I will be posting more information about that. But lots of fun stuff in the merch area. The new ones, if you didn't hear, we've got Tia notebooks that say I took Latin in high school. We have my very legal PDF pins, and then we have a bunch of other stuff all at thenewestolympian.com/merch. And I've been mentioning the live shows. There are other live shows that you can attend in person. These aren't going to be streamed, but I will be filming some of them and putting them up on Patreon, much like I did with this episode and also next week's episode. You can see that one days in advance. If you want to see the video versions of these episodes, you can go to Patreon. But if you want to come to the live shows, we've got stuff all throughout the Midwest in April. That's St. Paul, Milwaukee, Des Moines, Chicago, Columbus, and Cleveland. And then in May, we'll be in Montreal and Buffalo. You can get tickets to all the shows at thenewestolympian.com/live. For things specifically about this episode, first, after the break, we're doing Q&A, and there's a wild situation that happens in the Q&A that may or may not involve bug juice, so you're definitely going to want to listen. Second, I know there's a couple different points in this episode where I interact with either the crowd or the people watching the Super Bowl game on the floor above the venue, and I tried to do a good job of talking into the mic so it wouldn't be confusing to the listeners, but there's one point where I think I could have done a better job. It's a point in which I mess up the name of Canyon Park and say Canton Park, and then someone in the crowd, I believe, said that there's a neighborhood in Baltimore or in the surrounding area called Canton, and that's why I made the comment of, oh, I'm just playing to the home crowd. So if you were confused listening, that's what that was. Now, I've mentioned the Patreon. I'm going to give a shout out to the folks who have joined the Patreon most recently. So shout out to our newest Ultra God tier patron, Zayden Wintergale, and shout out to our newest God tier patrons, Scott Hinderleiter and Black Ash, and shout out to our newest Demigod tier patron, Vega, with an exclamation point. Thank you all so much for your support. May Dionysus bless you that if you're putting together a bowl of grapes, you don't accidentally put in one of the ones that looks weird and doesn't taste good and is kind of squishy and maybe starting to go bad. You always have a perfect bowl of grapes when you make a bowl of grapes. Now, if you're all caught up on the news Olympian and you're looking for some new content to consume, you're in luck because I make a whole bunch of content and I think you'd like some of the other podcasts that I make. One of the podcasts that I make that I'm in the process of making a new season for is Meddling Adults. I really promise we're recording an episode in a couple of weeks. So it's actually really happening. It's a podcast game show for charity where I host and guests compete to solve children's mysteries from classics like Scooby-Doo and Encyclopedia Brown. And then the winner earns money for a charity of their choosing. It's really fun. You can play along at home because I just kind of lay out all of the clues and stuff and then give you and the guests time to guess who they think it is so you can see if you are better than the guests. It's really fun and it's all for a good cause. You can listen at meddlingadults.com or you can search for Meddling Adults wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon where you get access to ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors who make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me. We have some fun sponsors going on, such as Peak Tea, who do a bunch of cool teas like matcha and coffee alternatives as well. But some of the ads won't be read by me, and those are inserted locally. So if you live in Romania, don't be surprised if you hear an ad in Romanian. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of The Newest Olympian, which is a very, very fun Q&A.
Let's end the show with some fantastic Q&A. People send in a lot of questions. A lot of them are really good. So let's get into it quickly. This first one, it is from Casey and Peter. And the subject line is Baltimore. We went to 12 7-Elevens looking for bug juice. Obviously, I'm opening this email. Hi, Mike. We are from Northern Delaware and have been fascinated by your bug juice tangents on the pod. Neither of us have had or even heard of bug juice before your first tangent back in October. In preparation for this live show, we wanted to find and experience it for ourselves. After lots of research and Reddit rabbit holes, we learned that they're typically sold at 7-Eleven. So our hunt began on Martin Luther King Day, where we spent our holiday visiting 12 different 7-Elevens from Newark, Delaware to North Baltimore. We were unsuccessful and had to order it online. Sad face. During our research, we discovered that there are many different bug juice flavors. See list below. Oh, I'm well familiar with the list. On Patreon, I did a whole thing where I went through every single page on the bug juice website, and it took like 40 minutes. So the question is, what do you think the main PJO/HO character's favorite bug juice flavors would be? Here's a quick recap of the flavors. And let's just say who it is. Fruity Punch seems the most normal, so Jason? Right? That feels like the most traditional.
I can't really... Iris.
Next one is Berry Raspberry. That sounds like the most blue.
Percy.
So Percy. Grapey Grape.
Raina?
Oh, it's got to be Mr. D.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Outrageous Orange.
Percy.
Orange.
Annabeth. She has a lot of Camp Pride.
Yeah, Camp Pride. Okay. Lemony Lime. That feels lemony lime. I mean,
Maybe
that's very
Will
sporty.
Solace?
It's very sporty. So maybe that makes you think of Gatorade. So Clarice.
Sure.
Straw Nana, which is a combination of strawberry and banana.
In a juice?
Yes. Straw Nana? That just feels super
That
sweet.
feels very, Drew?
I was going to say Drew. It feels too sweet and sugary. Okay, Leapin' Lemonade, but let's just spell Leapin' Lemonade. Leap apostrophe capital N. Lemo apostrophe capital N apostrophe aid.
That's
now,
Leo.
Okay.
He's bouncing off the walls.
Here's the interesting thing. It is lemonade, but there's apostrophe surrounding the N, but no letters are removed because it's just lemonade. That's not how that works. They do leapin' correctly because there's no I, and there should be an apostrophe after because it's leaping, but they only do one, and then the apostrophe surrounding N are doing nothing functionally. And then Whistlin' Watermelon. Whistlin' Watermelon. That also feels sweet. So maybe, maybe Piper, like
Maybe.
another
Oh,
Aphrodite.
she sings. Whistling is
perfect.
sort of tangential.
Yep, great. Spider Juice. That's a
Not
flavor.
Annabeth.
No, is there
Hephaestus.
Hephaestus.
Because he had the mechanical spiders.
Oh, perfect. Mystery flavor.
Raina.
Ooh, she is mysterious. Ladybug Juice.
Selena. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, sure. Dragonberry. I guess like Zoe
Frank.
Nightshade. His ancestor is apparently the greatest of dragons and can fight dragons. And then Bubblegum Berry. Let's give it to who's the girl? Not Mitch, but Mitch's friend, Lacey, right? Lacey. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Lacey. I'm gonna say Lacey. P.S. We have a bottle of bug juice for you. Of blue bug juice. Oh my God. Wait, where is it? Okay. Yeah. Put it on stage. I obviously have to drink it live. Thanks, Casey and Peter. That is awesome.
God.
Yes, please. I need to have the
my God.
actual. Yes. Okay. Oh my God. Sweet.
The label,
Beautiful.
too.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Here's bug juice. Holy sh! I've never had bug juice.
It is electric blue.
It is alarmingly blue. There's a huge American flag on this. Wow.
You know, football's very American.
Okay, let's
This
see.
is
So
bluer than blue Gatorade.
This is berry raspberry. It is so
Oh, we did
blue.
assign that to Percy.
Yeah, we did. Okay. Oh, ooh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's very sweet. I mean, it's kind of like, it's the vibes you would get. It's like,
It's just all corn syrup, isn't it?
I mean, let's see. Where's the ingredients list? Water is the first ingredient.
Okay.
The second is high fructose corn syrup. Then it's less than 2% of concentrated grape juice and blah, 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 and a bunch of other stuff. This bottle contains 1% fruit juice. And it also has 46% of your daily recommended sugar. But 100% of your daily recommended vitamins D and C and 1% of your daily recommended potassium. That must be from the 1% of juice. Wow. It's so, I mean, it's not like, it's very sweet. It's like liquefied candy. Wow.
Wow.
Oh, but hey, it does apparently have 25% fewer calories and sugar than apple juice. I don't think that's true. I really don't think that's true. Maybe a particular brand of it. Wow.
Or maybe like a gallon.
Yeah, that doesn't say. If you drink 12 gallons of apple juice. Yeah, okay, so there's bug juice. We'll put that front and
my
center.
God.
Thank you so much. That rules. Thank you so much.
This
That's
episode
so
is sponsored
cool.
by Bug Juice.
I honestly, like, I would consider it, but I can't actually endorse their product. It's so sweet. I've had 2 sips and I'm like, I'm good. It's like if Baja Blast was not soda. Like, it's intense. All right, anyway. This one's from Tess. Tess says, if both series were presented as cartoons with animal characters, what animal would each character be? And no, Grover and Hedge can't be goats. So Jason's gonna be a bald eagle. And then, let's see, Percy is gonna be some sort of aquatic thing. Like
A seahorse?
ooh, that's good. I like that. A seahorse. That's good because of the horses. Annabeth. It's just hard to not just pick everyone's like owls.
Yeah.
Like for Annabeth, like everyone's like normal kind of animal thing.
I feel like Annabeth could have a panther.
Ooh, a panther. Why a panther?
I don't know. They give me like clever vibes.
Ooh, okay.
Like, you know,
I like it.
outsmarting.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about panthers.
Sure. Let's see. Leo? Ooh, what's Leo? Something fiery?
Golden retriever.
Ooh.
No, wait.
I was thinking some sort of like desert animal, like does well with the heat, like a
Komodo
snake.
dragon?
Ooh, that's fun. And then, I could see like Piper or other Aphrodite people being like peacock with like very fancy
swan.
feather. Yeah, very like elegant sort of things. Cool. Yeah, there's a lot of different options there. Okay, this one is from Jordan. Jordan says, hi, Mike, can you explain the Luka Doncic Lakers trade in Percy Jackson terms so that my girlfriend can understand why I'm emotionally spiraling? So here's what I'm first going to say. If anyone has no idea what's going on with the Luka Doncic trade, it is not a hyperbole to say that this is the most surprising trade in basketball history, potentially in sports history. Like, it is not an exaggeration. It's truly absurd. And thankfully, this trade happened during the ride home from the Hartford live show that we were doing. Because if it happened, I got so many text messages and I couldn't process it. You can ask Stephen Parra. My brain melted in the car ride home. I would not have been able to complete the show. Like, it's just a brain-breaking trade. Now, we talk about it in depth in the episode of Horse that's coming out Tuesday, so we'll talk all about that. But the best non-Percy Jackson analogy that I heard for anyone unaware, basically the trade is like this really good player, Luka Doncic on the Mavs, got traded for this like very good player and some minor other good things on the Lakers, Anthony Davis. But like Luka Doncic is the type of player you just do not trade. He's like the cornerstone. He's the future. He's only 25. He took the team to the finals. He's very, very good. You should never trade him. And then they traded him. Here's the best analogy I heard about it. It is as if in the year 2014, One Direction traded Harry Styles for Justin Timberlake. Perfect analogy. Justin Timberlake in 2014, still very good. Not at the peak of his powers, but still very good. Just came off releasing the 2020 Experience, got suit and tie. Like, he's doing great. He's doing good things. But Harry Styles is just as good, if not better, and has so much more.
Harry Styles yet.
Exactly. He's got so much more upside. So that is like the best analogy for it. So in this case, Luka Doncic is Harry Styles, where it's like, why would you trade Harry Styles? He's Harry Styles. He's carrying your team. So, if we're doing it Percy Jackson, I think this would be like in book 2 of the Percy Jackson series. So in Sea of Monsters, if they traded Percy Jackson for Beckendorf. Like, Beckendorf is still good, but Percy Jackson, he just saved the world. And he like just got here. He's got so much potential. You can't trade Percy Jackson out of the Poseidon cabin with the Hephaestus cabin. Like, yeah, we like Beckendorf, but he's older and he's not Percy freaking Jackson. So that is what I would say. It's truly wild. Like, it is a brain-breaking trade. I'm still like emotionally getting over it. And I don't like either of these teams. Like, I actively dislike the Dallas Mavericks and I feel so bad for them. Like, I'm heartbroken for these people. I despise the Mavericks. The people from Dallas are fine. I don't like the Mavericks, the team, and I'm like, damn, that really sucks. It's absurd. So anyway, listen to the episode on horse. Adam and I break our brains trying to talk about it. Okay, this one's from Bennett. It says, hello and welcome to Baltimore. You spoke about how Hazel was jealous of Ella when she was talking to Frank. What animal would be jealous of talking to your significant other? Do you mean the significant other would be jealous of me talking to an animal?
No, which one would you be jealous of?
Okay, so like, oh, so if an animal is talking to Kelly, who am I jealous of?
So we're Hazel.
Oh. Who would I get jealous of? Okay, so basically, you're trying to say who's the hottest animal. I got it. Who's the hottest? Look, we've all seen The Lion King. Come on. I don't know. Let's see. I think I would actually be jealous, not from like I'm jealous that this person's talking to Kelly, but jealous that they're not talking to me. I think okapi are so cool. Like, they're like...
Wait, okapi?
Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
Okay, O-K-A-P-I. Don't know how to say it.
I said okapi, but I don't know.
Okapi? That's what I said. Okay, cool. I've seen them at like safaris and stuff. They look like part zebra, part like antelope.
yeah,
They got like
they're
cool
really
twisty
cute.
horns. They're super cool. So I would be jealous because I would like want to talk to one. I guess if I'm picking one that like I would be jealous of if they were talking to Kelly is like, I don't know, maybe like a kangaroo or like a gorilla because they're like ripped and stuff. And I'd be like, oh man. What about you?
I don't know how to answer this question.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one, okay, the subject line, don't pronounce the T in Baltimore is the subject line? Baltimore?
Okay. I will say I
Balmer.
pronounce the T in Baltimore because no one I grew up around pronounced it without the T. I feel like it's fading out a little bit. I don't know. Could be starting something here that I don't want to be part of.
I'm gonna keep saying Baltimore, but I feel like I can't say Baltimore without like trying to throw a southern accent on it. Like, but I don't have a southern accent. So I'm gonna be like, hello, I'm here today in the live show for Baltimore. Like,
This comes up in the episode that's dropping soon. Not about Baltimore, but
different. Yeah, this is great. Everything is circle. Okay. Hi, Mike and Sherry. Me and my twin sister are longtime listeners of Poderos and Tino. Speaking of my sister, we both got married in a combined wedding weekend last November. That's cool. My question is, if you had to plan a combined wedding weekend for our main couples, Percy and Annabeth, Harry and Ginny, where the ceremonies are on separate days, but they have other shared events, what would you plan? Ooh, okay, so it's a weekend where one day is Percy and Annabeth's marriage and one is Harry and Ginny. How do we combine them?
laser tag.
Laser tag. That's fun. That's really fun. I like laser tag. I also like doing some sort of like sporting type thing to bring all of the families together, but maybe like one of my friends did they did this in like the day before the wedding. They did a big kickball game, and it was like beer kickball, which is like a perfect like low stakes. No one's like actually like phenomenal at kickball. Like if I was trying to play like friendly basketball, I would take it way too seriously because I am good at basketball and I would want to be the best boy at the party. But kickball's like, it's just kickball. So maybe some sort of like friendly capture the flag. That's actually very thematic. Yeah. So I think that could be the things. And then like maybe some sort of like big meal.
Karaoke night.
Ooh, a karaoke night. Yeah. I think some sort of like big meal, very like Grand Hall Harry Potter style where they have lots of different food from like everyone's different cultures and stuff could be fun.
Improv karaoke toasts.
Ooh. Oh, here's the thing that I've been a part of.
I've just been watching too much Dropout lately.
They could do like a talent show made up of like things from their universe. So they could have like the frog choir, the should be. My stomach hurts from drinking 3 sips of this. God, I'm not touching any more of that. That's wildly sweet. Jesus. So the improv team at Camp Half-Blood, the Laugh Bloods, like they could do an improv show. There could be like the Weird Sisters could do like a music performance. I think like a talent show of bringing like here's what the wizarding world and the magical side of the Percy Jackson world can bring together. Okay, we're running out of time.
Can I give my Pokemon presentation?
Yes, yeah, do your Pokemon presentation. So someone asked about a Pokemon thing. There were a couple different Pokemon questions. So to check all those boxes,
yes.
let's do your Pokemon
In
presentation.
the last episode that came out with Johnny, in the Q&A, someone asked what would like the characters starting like Pokemon in their gyms be, and then someone on Reddit expanded that to be like, here are the 6 Pokemon on their teams. I disagreed with that person's, no offense, but I made my own. And I made it into a PowerPoint. So Percy, he has a Buizel that evolves into a Floatzel if you lose the first time. Then he has an Empoleon because the wings look like a sword. And then a Lapras because he's Percy Jackson. And he has a Magikarp that goes to a Gyarados, which we established at the show.
Yes.
And he also has a Poliwhirl because he's just a little guy. And then he has a Psyduck that becomes a Golduck if you lose.
I would also say Percy doesn't know that his Psyduck turns into a Golduck.
Absolutely
It's
not.
a complete surprise to
Absolutely
him.
not.
He's like, what?
And then Annabeth has a Meditite that becomes a Medicham. She also has a Lucario. And then a Kroger that becomes...
Someone just did a look where you went, yep, in the crowd. That was great.
I spent 3 hours on this.
Yep.
Like, this was a heavily thought out presentation. And then Krogunk becomes Toxicroak. A Hoot Hoot that becomes a Noctowl because obviously. And then she has a Gallade and a Hitmontop. Then Grover, Sudowoodo, obviously. He's a tree. And then he has a Roselia that becomes a Roserade. He has a Grottle, a Carnivine, a Shaman, and then a Bidoof that becomes a Bibarel. Then Thalia, she has a Luxray because it looks just like her. And then she has a Glaceon and a Jolteon. Only the girls are allowed to have the evolutions. Then she has a Weavile, an Absol, and a Frostlass. Okay, and then Nico. Nico's got a lot. He goes through a journey. He has the whole Ghastly trio, Ghastly, Haunter, Gengar. That's an evolution sequence. He has a Cubone, which we established. A Houndoom, because Mrs. O'Leary. A Murkrow, because he's also a little guy. And then the Abracadabra, Alakazam trio, and a Darkrai. And then Jason is boring, I'm sorry. He has a Pikachu and then some birds.
Jason's like the friend who's basic, but
Yeah, we
he
love him, but
embraces
he's
it.
basic.
We love him, but
he has a Zapdos, an Electabuzz, Staraptor, Pidgeotto, and then a Farfetch'd, because he's the lost hero.
Aww.
Then Leo. Leo's a little guy, but you know, he has a little bit of a complex about that. So he has a lot of large Pokemon.
Those big dragons.
He has a Charizard, a Dragonite, a Salamence, a Steelix, a Garchomp, and a Skarmory.
You're just all the things that 6-year-old boys think are cool.
And then Piper, we established, she has a Jigglypuff.
Girafarig! I love Girafarig!
And it's a psychic type, which makes sense. Yeah, Piper also has an Espeon and a Chingling. And she has the Ralts Curlia Gardevoir evolution set. And because her and Annabeth are both like powerful women, they have, you know, the alter egos of that. And a Mime Jr., because she's a cutesy one. And then Frank has just a lot of buff guys. He has Machop, Machoke, and Machamp. A Taurus, because he just gives... Oh, wait, his grandma called him an ox, so it works.
Great.
He has an Entei, and then Ekans and Arbok, which I love how it's just Snake and Cobra backwards.
Pretty good.
Pokemon naming is great. He has a Ditto, because, you know, he can be anything. And then he has a Teddy Ursa that becomes an Ursa Ring, because of his mom. Then Hazel, a bunch of diggers. The Diglett that becomes a Dig Trio, because she finds her trio.
Aww.
And then she has a Dawn fan because the elephant and because he tunnels. And a Rapidash, obviously Horse Girl. Then she has a Rhydon, and then the Swinub, Piloswine, Mamoswine evolution, because she gives me Dawn from the season like 4, whatever, Pokemon arc vibes. And a Mawile, that's like, she looks docile, but she becomes like scary if she gets provoked. And then Reina was hard, but I think the vibe makes sense for
The best
these.
was in the green room. Sherry was like, I had a tough time with Reina, and I was like, well, obviously Ninetales, right?
So yeah, Reina has a Nidoqueen, because she's a queen, a Seviper and Ninetales, and then a Miss Magius, because she's mysterious, a Vespiquen, because teamwork, and then a Railu, because her and Annabeth also have some similar vibes, I feel. And then finally, as a bonus, I have Ma Gasket. So Ma Gasket would choose all the like kind of gross looking guys, but she would think they're really cool because she like, especially with sloking and slacking, she would just see King and be like, well, they'd make me a queen, so obviously. And then she has like the mucky, grimy ones. So yeah, it's Dusclops, Probopass, Sloking, Slacking, Muck, and Grimer. And that's the end of it.
Yes. Beautiful.
And you can get a link to this presentation. I commented it on the Spotify comment section of the previous episode with Johnny.
Yes, so you can find it in the comment section there. Do you have a Reddit? You should post something too.
I should, but I have to make a new Reddit account.
Okay, we'll figure it out. But I can't think of a better way to end the show with the thing that is the farthest opposite from watching the Super Bowl is a PowerPoint presentation about Pokemon inspired by the Percy Jackson books. We've truly done it. Thank you all so much for coming out to the show. Give yourselves a round of applause for making it out, making the show happen. You have made my tour manager so happy that we sold a good amount of tickets on Super Bowl Sunday. He texted me like, oh my God, I can't believe I booked it on Super Bowl Sunday. I'm so sorry. I'm like, dude, we're good. There's a lot of nerds coming through. We are fine. Give it up to Sherry for being a fantastic guest for both acts of the show. Give it up to my buddy Ricky for running the merch table, setting up a camera, and letting me crash at his place tonight.
Shout out to my sister for driving me here and letting me crash at her place tonight.
Yeah. And shout out to Matt and the whole team at Autobar here for housing us and getting this all set up. It was a fantastic thing, sound-wise, hospitality-wise, everything's great. So give it up to the Autobar team and to Matt. This has been an absolute delight. I'm so happy to have done this. I hope I can return. And until I return to Baltimore, because I gotta make my way back for more stuff. Until then, I'll
Percy you later.
Thank you all so much for coming out to the show. Have a good night!
Hello! Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you really enjoy the show and you just can't get enough, there's a couple of different things that you can do. First, you can go to patreon.com/thenewsolympian, and you can get access to all sorts of bonus content that I post on a very regular basis. You also can find us and get involved in the community on social media. We've got an Instagram, we've got a Blue Sky, we've got a Twitter, we've got a Facebook, we've got a subreddit, we've got a Discord that's available to all patrons. If you want to support the show, you can get merch at thenewsolympian.com/merch. You can see live shows at thenewsolympian.com/live, and you can check out the aforementioned Patreon. And speaking of, I want to give a shout out to our highest tier, the Ultra God tier patrons who are helping to produce this show with their financial support. So shout out to Kelsey Gillespie, Vicky Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Abby Ryan, Marco Redhouse, Sam Reedy, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkopf, Rayla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Persasabeth, Aiden Parziani, Grace, Ginger Spurs Boy, A Cup of Solace, Bradamus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Natanya Page, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Bella, Percy Jacked Son, Han Haley Hingelheimer Schmidt, Catherine Sloan, Haley Mary, Jim Jam Koopy, Kit Kat Crumbs, Andrea, not Andrea, Jordan Ray, Nico's Black Vespa, and Zayden Wintergate. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, just spreading the show via word of mouth is huge. You can tell someone directly who you think would like the show. You could post about it on social media. You could leave a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. All of these things really do help, and I really appreciate anyone who has done it in the past or will do so in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode, where we will be joined by Johnny Frolickstein live in Richmond, Virginia, to break down chapters 35 and 36 of The Son of Neptune. But until then, I'll Percy you later. Hey friend, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. So here in the Shubio, I currently have a stack of papers that I have been utilizing for filing my taxes, which are always super fun and not terrible being a self-employed boy. So I'm just going to kind of ruffle through this stack of papers that hopefully, once my accountant gets back to me, can just be filed away and I don't have to think about them anymore. Thank you so much for listening.